Okay friends, it's time to get started on replacing our wiper arm regulator. To do that, the first thing that I want to do is remove my wiper arms from the vehicle. There's going to be a little clip right here that we can just carefully pry up on, and then we'll remove this cap. Underneath that, there's a mounting nut. Go ahead and remove that nut. Next, we're going to want to remove the wiper arm from the assembly. Typically, you can wiggle these around and they'll come free. If for some reason it doesn't, it's probably because there's corrosion in between this area. If that's the case, just get yourself a little puller or carefully pry underneath this, but be careful not to break your cowl. Do the same to the passenger side. Now those arms are off of there, let's continue on the passenger side. We're going to come over here to this hose. This is the washer fluid hose. Just come right to the joint area here, give it a nice twist, and separate it. After you separate it, give it a couple nice squeezes. We want to inspect it. Make sure it's not super firm or damaged in any way. If you see dry rot or cracking, you need to go ahead and replace it. This one looks fine, so let's move along. Now I'm going to use a little fork tool. You can use pretty much whatever you want, but essentially we need to get this little push tab out of here. Let's get right underneath there, pop it up, just like that. Now we're going to go over to the driver's side and remove this as well. Okay, we have the clips out. We can move this around a little bit, but what you're going to notice is you have some clips that come across here. There's one here, should be one there, another one here, and then of course one over there. If we just come underneath this tab right here, we can gently pry on this. We want to be very careful not to break it like those other ones that somebody else broke, and then just lift this up so it's nice and loose. At that point, you can carefully lift up on this. If it doesn't want to lift up, just stick a screwdriver under here, but be careful not to damage your paint. Once you do, just gently pry this up, and then do the same to the other side. All right, now we can take this, slide it here. This one out of here. Carefully set this down. And that exposes our wiper arm regulator. Next, we're going to remove our mounting bolts that hold this to the body of the truck. You'll have one right here, one located right here near the motor, and then one on the far side, right there. Remove all three. Next, we're going to put the key in the on position, turn on the wiper blades, and then we're going to turn them right off so that this arm, located right here, is pretty much aiming in this angle right there. Now at this point, we can come over here to the wiring, just slide this tab right here, and then after that you can grab onto that tab and remove it from the motor. Inspect the wiring. If you see any funny colors, it's corrosion, and that would need to be dealt with. This one looks great, so I'll just set it aside. Now for the piston, to remove it from the hood, there's a little clip that runs along here. You're going to find an area that you can try to squeeze in a pick or a small screwdriver, slide it under there, and then gently pull this away. Once you have it unlocked, you can go ahead and grab onto that piston and slide it off of the hood. We'll rest that down here. Now this is going to be easiest if you have a second person, because what we need to do is go ahead and take off the passenger side as well. At that point, we're going to carefully lift up the hood and definitely make sure that it doesn't touch up against the windshield at all. We'll just make sure that this is staying up, and then we can deal with that wiper arm regulator. Now with the hood being held up, we can continue on to removing the regulator. There it is, friends. Time to install the brand new regulator. We're going to carefully slide this in. As we do that, we want to be very careful not to put a pinch on our wiring. Slide that right in there. Okay. Now we want to make sure that we have that side lined up as well. So I'm just going to slide it a little bit more this way, and then we'll put that up and over. Now let's bring this back down and put on our pistons. Slide that right in. Give it a couple bonks and then lock it in. Do the same to the other side. Next, let's install our mounting hardware. We'll start them all in. Once they're all started, we'll snug them up. Let's connect this in. Listen for a click, double check that it's locked, and then of course, ensure it's locked. Now the next thing we want to do is put the key in the on position, and we're going to put the wiper blades on and then turn them off and wait for them to go into park position. Now they're in park. So now the next thing that we would do would be to put on our cowling, which is the plastic aspect of this. But before we do that, look inside here. Make sure you didn't leave any tools or anything loose. Of course, anything that might get bound up inside here is going to cause an issue with the regulator. Now let's start with the passenger side. You want to pay attention to this area here. You have a little hooky-doo, and a few more. That's all for this right here. So we're just going to make sure that it's completely inside there. This is going to make sure that it's not just hanging around and potentially getting damaged. We'll bring this all up here and start lining it up. Now, as we bring this up, what we want to be paying attention to is the hooks that come across the front of it. We're going to obviously want this to slide in and underneath this. We have this coming up through here. We're going to make sure that we have these slid underneath that. Of course, there should be one in the center there. This looks good. I'm going to do the same to the driver's side. You want to make sure that you have this flip coming underneath the fender. If you have it up on top, it's not going to work right. In the center, just make sure everything's lined up the way that it needs to be. Slide this under. Those clips right there should be underneath this as well. Ours are missing, so you just have to imagine that. Let's go ahead and put in our push clips. Push that right down. Double check to make sure it's nice and secure, going all the way across your clips. And then, of course, we'll do the same to the other side. Line it up with the hole and press it right down. Let's go ahead and reconnect this washer fluid hose. Connect that in there. One final inspection before we close the hood. Make sure you don't have any tools. Everything's nice and secure. This looks great. Time for the wiper arms. Just carefully slide it on here, and we're going to bring it down. Once it's down, we want this to be pretty straight. So don't have it looking like this and then tighten it up, or all the way down like that and tighten it up. Essentially, you just want it to be so if you're sitting in the car, it looks as though it's semi-parallel to the road. After that, we'll go ahead and start the nut on here and then snug it up. Hold that wiper arm so it can't move while you tighten it. Do the same to the other side. Okay, now before we put on those caps, let's go ahead and test it, make sure it functions properly. Perfect. Okay, now that we're sure it works perfectly, let's go ahead and put on our caps here. Do the other side, and then down the road you go.